Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wanderer's Haven. I am your humble host and game master for the evening, Miko, otherwise known as the OKSGM. And we are here to tell another chapter in the many, soon to be, hopefully many in the future, arcs of my homebrew world of Ysterra. Once again, I have my glorious castmates here with me to help me tell this story. And this story in particular was already introduced, at least partly, by a prelude adventure that a couple of these folks were involved in that is now available in VOD if you want to check it out. That was the Masks of Lost Princess game, and that was a lot of fun. We have a returning character for that even tonight. And then some new characters, and we've got a couple of new faces, so I think it's going to be a ton of fun, and I think that we should just get right on with it. And yeah, we're going to let these fine folks introduce themselves. We're going to start, I believe, with our new cast member for this series, Annika. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and who you're playing today. Oh.
Playing the wonderful and lovely Bucket, who has gone through some hard things since we saw him last, but he's here to make things right.
Okay. Hopefully we shall see. And we get to find out perhaps what he has been doing in this intervening time since that early adventure. And moving right along, Beth, you came back. I'm so glad you came back.
I've actually been chained to this desk. I can't go anywhere else, so glad to be here.
I mean, that's why you got that shirt made, right?
Yes. You guys, if you missed the prelude, you gotta just watch it. But I'm Beth, and I am going to be playing a character named Sai, who you will meet shortly.
Do you want to tell us anything about Sai right now, or are we going to leave it a surprise?
We'll get there. It's fine.
Fair enough. And our resident witch in training, character and player, Deb, please do us all a favor and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about May.
Hello. Is it Wednesday already again?
No. It's crazy.
I can't believe it. I'm so excited to be in this new arc with a new character. I'm Deb. I will be playing Maeve for this arc. She is a plant witch and has some cool stuff. So I'm very excited to see what she gets up to.
Indeed. I am very much excited too. And continuing right along, Ian, please tell us a little bit about yourself. And just so I am getting it out of the way, Wraith?
Yep, Wraith.
Yeah, nailed it.
Yeah, awesome. I'm Ian. Happy to be back. The check cleared. And I play Wraith, who is a fighter with a splash of rogue. I'll figure out a combination name like I did last time shortly.
Okay. All right. I'm looking forward to finding out what kind of combinations we get up to for that. And I think I've got that audio thing fixed. You know what? I am, just because of the weirdness of technical issues, I'm going to let it slide for now and hope that everything goes right. One last thing before we jump into our game. We are doing a giveaway tonight. We have a GM planner that you can see a little bit of info about in the chat. If you Jeremy is going to put a link in there about joining. You can check it out on the arcanegoods.com website. It's a pretty interesting little book, and it's definitely useful for all those folks out there that like actually doing things with an analog flair, which I personally also am a fan of. Yeah, just follow the instructions in chat, throw yourself an entry, and later on tonight, at the end of the stream, we'll be giving that fun thing away. Jeremy will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's just the US. Maybe it's US and Canada, not including Quebec, because, well, Quebec. Yeah, they're awful with that kind of stuff. Anyway, let us jump right into our shenanigans tonight. I think I'm going to hopefully not break things even more and tell you a little bit about Ysterra. I would like to welcome you to this mesmerizing world of magic and grandeur that sits on the cusp of a monumental transformation. It is home to incredible creatures, diverse range of civilizations, all of which are under the watchful eyes of the Ascendant, divine beings that have emerged throughout Ysterra's history. For when Ysterra was still in its infancy, a dying god sowed its celestial power into the very planet itself and fostered the birth of these Ascendant to be born over the evolution of the world. And as these divine guardians have emerged, they have dedicated their existences to protecting the world of Ysterra from the many threats of the multiverse and beyond. And they have also sought to help guide the evolution of Ysterra and her people. Nestled in a binary star system, Ysterra basks under the luminescent glow of the suns Iedra and Orin, who paint a riot of colors across the sky. It orbits these twin stars in a prolonged 4-year cycle, resulting in very lengthy and intense seasons. Ysterra's celestial companions, the 3 moons, Lunara, Lunaris, and Lunarin, each unique in their allure, cause tempestuous seas due to their heavy gravitational influence that turns sea travel into a perilous, lethal endeavor. There are many continents on this world. However, the one that we are focusing on is Insaris, largest continent. It has diverse ecosystems and houses over 30 different civilizations, from the imposing Aelris Mountains to the very tranquil inland sea of Intreskel. It is not only an epicenter of life and cultures, but it has a vast array of biomes and natural beauty. And in the heart of this continent, the development of magical artifice, a synthesis of magic and technology, holds the promise of an impending industrial revolution for the world, capable of bridging distances and cultures. The Ascendant, sired by the divine essence of the aforementioned dying god, have surfaced intermittently to steer Ysterra's course, and their influence has indelibly shaped the world's breathtaking landmarks and mystical creatures, but not without occasional calamitous repercussions. The most dramatic of these was the Illuvance, cataclysmic event that reshaped Insaris's very landscape, destroying the prominent kingdom of Intreskel, claiming tens of millions of lives and decimating nearly half of the world's elven population. The cause of this Illuvance remains a mystery, but there are whispers that attribute it to the Ascendant's unchecked influence. In the aftermath of the Illuvance, what had eventually reshaped this world in this way, there ended up being a pause for the Ascendant. They withdrew themselves from the mortal realm, locking themselves behind a magical doorway of sorts, sitting atop the tallest mountains of Ysterra, known as the Amaranthine Doorway. Their retreat has fostered a seismic shift in the societal landscape of the world, and in that retreat, we have witnessed a dwindling, perhaps, of religious organizations, but in that scape, we've also carved a path for the forthcoming magical industrial revolution. And the Ascendant, though less directly involved, continue to serve as vigilant protectors of Ysterra, warding against the vast threats of the multiverse and watching from afar, from behind the Amaranthine Doorway, as their legacy weaves itself into the fabric of Ysterra's history, geography, and destiny. And as we pull away from seeing the world as a whole, we find ourselves moving forward on a ship on the vast sea of Intreskel. This inland sea that was created in the aftermath of the Illuvance, what had once been the entirety of the kingdom of Intreskel, gone in the blink of an eye and replaced with these magical waters that this ship now sails upon. These waters seem less influenced by the moons that have such heavy influence over the rest of the seas, and in the millennia since the Illuvance, sea travel has shaped all of the civilizations that now exist around this Sea of Intreskel, as it is known, and the shipping that it portends has brought great promise and escalation to the various cultures thriving on this new found seascape. Now, 1,000 years since the Illuvance, all of these various kingdoms and civilizations and city-states have banded together to form a union of sorts known as Greater Intreskel, which, while all of them certainly have their own uniqueness and flares and rules and laws and peoples and cultures, they now strive together to protect one another, to foster growth between one another, and share their vast and diverse cultures. That is not what we're here to discuss, though. We're here to discuss this lone, solitary ship. This vessel known as the Siren's Scribe, as it sails across the night seas and in this slightly choppy waters with heavy clouds in the sky and the hints of what perhaps once was some recent rain. The sailors on board the Siren are a little bit somber, for they are traveling to a new place, a destination which is constantly warded from ships sailing past, as normally such a ship traveling too close in proximity will have cannons fired upon it, warning it to head off in different directions. You're only allowed to traverse close to this island if you have distinct permissions, and if those arrangements were made well in advance. Our vessel, the Siren, is heading towards fairly directly, and everyone on board, except for 3 particular individuals, find themselves a little bit on edge. In particular, on edge, we find the captain of the Siren, Captain Bulvis, as it is, a blue dragonborn of prominent figure and display. This man stalks about his vessel with stoicism, and all of his crew look upon him with a great deal of respect. Next to him, of course, is his first mate, Ladonna, an elven woman probably in her middle of her 2nd century, also stoic, but perhaps slightly less stoic than the captain, as she is well-to-do in barking out orders to ensure that her shipmates are tending to their duties with the utmost rapidity and care. And then we have our 3 remaining individuals standing aboard the deck of this vessel. We have Wraith. Yes, we have Wraith. Sometimes known as the Watchman by those that know him well, which there may not be very many of at this point. Wraith stands next to his companions. Wow, my brain is just not working tonight. Maeve and Sai, as the trio stands together on the deck of this vessel, looking out across the sea. Please do us all a favor, everyone, and tell us a little bit about what we see. We'll start with you, Ian. What does Wraith look like as he stands on the deck of this vessel, peering off at this island that he is destined for?
So actually, Wraith isn't looking at the island. He's hunched over the side, blowing chunks. It's really bad. Like, after like the choppy waters and then the rain and everything, it's not working with his system. If he was standing, you would see a half orc male with very long black shaggy hair and the minor hint of tusks coming from under his bottom lip. It kind of just wears your standard traveling around clothes. He doesn't keep much on him, or at least he doesn't have a lot that you would see, because he bounces around, less to carry. Right now he's hunched over the side, and he's letting it go. He's like, oh.
Right. And Deb, what is Maeve doing at this point as Wraith is having his moment?
Maeve is just sort of standing off to the side. She feels bad for him, but doesn't really want to get in close to all of that. She does use shape water to bring some of the seawater up and form a little bucket so that it's like not splashing everywhere and like splashing back up at Wraith, but that's about as far as she gets into it.
It is worth noting that this voyage that you were on, you've already been on the ship for more than a day at this point, and if Maeve has done any shaped water on the Sea of Entreskal before, she knows that the Sea of Entreskal reacts differently than other waters of the world, as it has some kind of built-in magical qualities. It is one of the most booming businesses in all of Greater Entreskal is to be an alchemist and using the waters of the Sea of Entreskal that somehow seem to make it easier to, in fact, craft your potions and the like. And as Maeve goes about to bringing up the water on board the ship in this controlled way, just in lifting the water, it seems to want to bend to a shape with even just the slightest flicker of thought in her mind. She actually has to concentrate heavily to avoid it from turning into some shape that happens to be on her mind or something that she is thinking about as it comes up above the edge of the ship and rests in this bucket that is nearby. And then our third companion, Sai. Beth, would you please describe Sai for us, and what is Sai doing in this moment?
Yeah, so you see a tall, half-elf person, slightly feminine, but certainly dressed a little bit more androgynously in a dark blue and black coat. Their hair is very short on the sides and sort of curly on top. They stand with a relaxed posture, which almost looks foreign, given the height and lankiness of their body. And as Wraith is yakking overboard, Sai reaches into a pouch in their coat, pulls out a handkerchief and then a leaf of some kind. They put it in the handkerchief, rub it around, and Wraith, put this over your mouth. It might help.
Oh. He kind of looks at you, and then he just kind of like just grabs it and he puts it over his mouth and he's like,
it's very herbal, kind of piney and almost minty, and it might help, it might not, but it doesn't make things worse.
That smells like shit.
I think that's you, friend.
No. Takes it aside and goes, no, go ahead.
As you say that, Sai, you hear LaDonna, who is standing basically there with all of you, and she just kind of grunts a little bit and says, "Yeah, well, he does, doesn't he? Captain, I don't like this. We shouldn't be sailing this close to Arkhold." And the captain, who is standing just a few feet away, his eyes seem fixated upon the island that you're heading towards. He just stares at it, unmoving, unfazed, his eyes just glistening a little bit in the moonlight. And he just turns and starts walking away, and you hear the gruff voice. Well, we don't have a choice, do we? Let's get it done. And he just heads back into probably his captain's cabin. And as he does so, Madonna just kind of grimaces and she turns and starts walking away from the rest of you. You know that these two individuals are not necessarily jovial individuals, but they are friendly. And they were friendly to you upon your arrival, like certainly willing to take you wherever you needed to go. But when you handed them the mission parameters in which you were given, there was a distinct change in their demeanor. No one on board this vessel likes being this close to Arkhold, and even yourselves probably have some trepidation for what you're about to experience.
I don't like boats.
They don't seem to like you much either.
Yeah, well, I didn't ask to get on the boat. I had to.
We're very close now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have quite the mission ahead of us.
Yeah. So what? We go on this island, we get a bucket, and then we leave. That's what I read.
It's a very special bucket. Yes.
Yeah.
It seems simple enough, though. I don't think anything at this place is actually simple.
They never are.
Mm-hmm. Not in most places. So, after we get the bucket, we do this, and then we just take them back for the standard memory wipe. Right? That's it?
That's the objective, yes.
Simple enough. And he sits down, just kind of looking at the both of them. Wraith doesn't like to ask a lot of questions because he doesn't like a lot of questions asked of him. So he keeps it pretty much standard.
Sai will look as far outward as they can towards the island, and they have pretty significant dark vision. Is there anything in particular about what we're drawing upon that is of note, apart from it just being a, big scary place?
Sure. So Arkhold Isle, as you know it to be, is a imposing place, to say the least. The island itself, any of you that have any semblance of understanding of history and how the Sea of Entrescal was made would know that this island was very likely a mountain 1,000 years ago. Like, if you look at ancient maps, you can see that in this place there was just this massive mountain, and so just the tiniest speck of the peak of the mountain is what is lifted out of the water at this point. And there's a few other dots surrounding the island, other smaller islands themselves, and it creates a slightly hazardous path for ships to traverse. But that's not the most hazardous part. The many towers that exist along the outskirts, the outer edges of Arkhold, are all appointed with multiple cannons that fire that are pointed in multiple different directions, giving extreme coverage to anyone that might be trying to make their way to Arkhold without permission. These cannons have sunk a few vessels in this proximity. However, for the most part, they do just fire warning shots, and people tend to take the hint. And in this particular case, as you get nearer and nearer to Arkhold itself and get a closer look at some of the islands, you are very glad that they are not firing at you, because it would be quite certain that your ship would not last. The island itself does not have a wall. It doesn't need a wall. Anyone that would attempt to, and there have been a few, anyone that would attempt to try to make their way out away from Arkhold and swim, they wouldn't last very long. The currents, while certainly less imposing than the tumultuous Prime Sea, even the currents of the Sea of Entreskal test the most powerful of swimmers. And so the island itself, particularly on a night like tonight, where things are calm, like there's a slight breeze, but it's that post-storm breeze that is somewhat refreshing and, hints to what had transpired days before, but now is much, much more appealing to deal with. And with that calm, you can see an almost serenity in the Isle of Arkhold. But you know its purpose. Arkhold Isle is, of course, a prison. It is a place where only the most hardened of criminals end up. And you have to serve a minimum of 10 years to be sent to Arkhold. So the people that call Arkhold home, mostly because they don't choose to, they're there for the long term of things.
Somehow it's even worse the closer we get.
I would hate to be one of the prisoners here.
Yeah.
You're muted, Ian.
Yes, first one to do it. I don't like prisons anywhere. How long do we have to stay here? The faster we could get them and leave would be best.
I think the quicker we can convince Bucket to help us, the faster we can be on our way.
How
It'll take much convincing?
I have no idea.
I mean, if 3 random strangers came to me while I was in prison to say that they'd take me out, wouldn't take much for me.
I mean, same here.
But it would be good to know what we tell them. What's the plan?
That's a great question.
Right. Miko, I have a above table question.
Sure.
So,
Ask
of
away.
course, with all the prompts and briefing, do we know that Bucket's a robot?
Yeah, you would have gotten a dossier on Bucket,
Okay.
and you would know that they are a forged individual. There is no notation of their origin. That's not generally something that that's like low on the. You really have to do some heinous acts in order for you to be subject to that kind of a magic. And so with that being said, and plus your previous briefings that you have on Bucket, there's certainly some notions here about why is Bucket in this place?
Got it.
And so you don't know their origins. The report would indicate if they had ever given it up and they were not subject to the magics that would induce that. And based on your report that you have received about Bucket previously, you would know that most of the information that you have equates them to basically being a servitor. Like their tasks seem to have been in the service of other people.
Okay. So what if we just go in there and just turn him off, and then just take him?
I don't particularly care for that plan.
What? It'd be a lot simpler than just talking to him. Just go in there, flip the switch, put him on the boat, deal with this shit again, and then we just keep it pushing. We'll go find. We got a bucket. Now we'll go get a pocket. Like that's.
I'm not certain
I-
that there will be an easily accessible off switch for this bucket.
Am I oversimplifying this whole thing? Because I feel like
Yes.
it's just
Yeah.
okay. Fine.
I think we're gonna have to convince them. I think we're gonna have to convince them to come with us.
I think, as usual, our best option is to start a conversation. Maybe that will offer some insight as to what might encourage Bucket to come with us. I mean, we've got a little bit of information, but we kind of don't know where he's at this point. It's been a while.
Do you think they're aware of the memory wipe?
I don't believe so.
I mean, at the moment, they don't even know you're coming.
Yeah, they
So-
don't know we're coming. From
The
the
more
side,
important
like,
question might be, do we talk?
from the side, some distance from the two of you, because he went back to the edge of the trip. If all else fails, we'll smack him around a little bit. He'll be fine.
I think that we will probably have an opportunity for a bit more diplomacy in this, but that is an option, as always.
And I heard what you said. No one knows about the memory wipe, especially not somebody outside of
That's
the initiative.
true. I think we should keep that to ourselves because feelings on that tend to be mixed.
Yeah, well. How much farther till? Because I have to get off this fucking thing.
As you guys are having this conversation, the ship is getting closer and closer to the island. You're navigating at this point between the various shoals, the smaller islands that surround it, and you are nearing what appears to be the only berth, a very long, narrow dock, and the Siren is the second ship at the dock. The first is a substantially larger vessel. It has no markings to indicate origin or allegiance or even a name. And it appears to be like it's a good 150 feet long, riddled with cannons as well. 5 different masts, so just a glorious amount of sails that can be drawn seemingly at a moment's notice. And it appears to be the vessel, you would assume anyway, the vessel that is most likely to be what the island uses for its needs, versus perhaps someone else visiting Arkhold. But nonetheless, you make your way. The Siren docks expertly. Captain Bolvis and First Mate LaDonna do their absolute best to ensure that everything goes well in this particular experience, partly because they don't want to not necessarily anger their patrons in this moment, but they certainly seem to want to express to all of you how tight a ship that they run, and that they are not going to let this daunting task that they are having to deal with sway them or affect them in any way. As they, goddamn, as the ship drifts into the dock, and several of the crew members leap off and start tugging in and tying off the ropes and getting the ship settled. A deck is lowered down to the dock itself, and you 3 are allowed to make your way. There is no one to meet you at the end of the dock, and you can only assume, based on the activity that you have seen at the towers, that everyone knows you're here, but no one is here to meet you. And so you just start making your way, traversing along the dock itself. As you move down this very long walkway, you find yourselves perhaps still, Wraith in particular, a little bit uneasy. There's the dock moves ever so slightly. There's still, I mean, you've been on the ship for a couple of days. It's going to take you a minute to get your land legs back under you. And so it's you get the distinct feeling, any of you that have a decent passive insight get the distinct feeling that this walk is meant to intimidate. This is the walk that prisoners have to take when they come here, and you could very easily see how dominating this would feel to be making your way to a place that you are going to be spending a very long time in and have to do such a long walk as this to reach there. But eventually you do find yourselves at the end of this dock. Once you reach the end, you see a number of individuals that are wearing not gleaming armor, because there is no sunlight at this point, but there is a little bit of light that reflects off of their silver steeled armor, covered in sashes of white and black, and you know these individuals to be guardsmen of this place. They are well bedecked in weaponry, carrying heavy crossbows each, along with a variety of swords, including greatsword, longsword, and short sword. They have to be fairly decently well built in order to be able to handle this armor and all of these weapons and such. And you see a fairly good gamut of different ancestries amongst the individuals here. There doesn't appear to be any sway one way or another. Those of you that have an understanding of the various cultures and civilizations of Greater Entreskel, or even just history and knowledge of Arkhold, would know that everyone who chooses to live here, that is, those that are in service to Arkhold, they come from all over Greater Entreskel. There is no one country or city-state that provides more people or support to this island than any other. Everything is handled very equanimously, and in this particular instance, you can get a distinct understanding and feeling of how that affects the culture here. Everyone knows what they're here to do, and they do their best to keep things relatively calm and chill. You are escorted from the docks a decent distance towards a cluster of buildings on this half of the island. You don't have to walk very far, and you're able to get a good sense that the island itself almost seems like a town or a village in a way. You don't see any individuals that you would assume to be prisoners walking about. But you do see regular intervals of the guards, as well as handfuls of the various people that are obviously here for employ, taking care of tasks and tending to things. It's very quick, but it's very easy for you to understand relatively quickly that a great deal of the maintenance of the prison itself is handled at night versus the day. As all of the prisoners seem to be well contained in these evening hours, and it's a good opportunity to get certain things done. As you are escorted to the cluster of these buildings, you're basically ferreted through. I mean, this was prearranged. Everyone knew you were coming. Everyone knew the vessel. There was very likely obvious descriptions for yourselves that were given, and no one is really batting an eye about your presence. But you get the distinct feeling that your presence is being watched. Every guardsman that you pass, they don't just glance at you and nod. They glance at you, look up and down, head to toe, seem to assess any weapons or equipment that you're carrying, and you can tell pretty quickly that there is a sense that every person is well trained to spot potential threats going on. I would say, Wraith, you in particular, because of your imposing demeanor, are getting more than a few looks of wonderment in, how would we take that guy down if we had to, sort of thing, right? Whereas Sai is probably getting the least of those kinds of looks, maybe because of the holy symbol that they bear. The holy symbol of Nocturnus is oftentimes a little bit foreboding to certain individuals that might, be afraid of death. And when they see someone of the worship of Nocturnus, it's a little unsettling, as where someone of Nocturnus goes, death might follow. Maeve, on the other hand, gets a little bit of more humorous looks from some of the others. A few individuals probably recognize her heritage. Maybe perhaps they're from Ysterra as well. And overall, I think that your presence, while noted, no one seems to be tense at your presence. Do you have anything that you would like to do or discuss as you are being escorted to these administrative buildings for your eventual meeting with the individual you have come to collect?
I lean over to one of the guards who kind of looks at Maeve with like this amusement look, and I go, I wouldn't laugh too much. The last time she took the lips, so might want to keep that to yourself.
Roll a persuasion check for me. No, actually, I guess this would be deception.
Is it deception?
You tell me, Deb. Do you often curse people
Am I
in
rolling
such ways?
deception?
I think this would be deception, but
Okay.
she plays it like it's true as well. So she kind of adds back up to his.
All right. Well, before you roll that,
Fredger.
then give me a persuasion check, Maeve. And if you do decently enough, we'll give him advantage on his deception check. How about that?
Let's go.
That's a 4.
Oh, okay. Now you know why they're laughing.
All
Just
right,
a straight roll.
Let's see.
Just a straight roll.
What is that? 16.
Okay. Someone else kind of overhears what you're talking about, and they, like, their head snaps over to you, and there's this look of shock on their face. The person that you were talking to, they just took it as you were probably joking in jest, and all of that, and they don't react in the same way. They get like a wry smile, but like one of the other individuals, like their expression changes very, very much, and like you see them move, because you're being escorted by like 5 guys, right? And you see them move to the back of the group in near proximity to Maeve.
Yeah.
Now seeing Maeve as the real threat.
I look at that guy like dead eye, and I go, just right off. Just cut him right off. It's crazy.
His hand drifts down to his hip to rest on the handle of his longsword.
That was good. Just keep walking.
Sai is using the perception of them to their advantage. They are trying to embody a very calm, serene spirit that one might associate with a night warden, which works twofold to soothe some and frighten others, and that's exactly the line that they'd like to toe right now.
Sounds
And
good.
then right from over Sai's shoulder, here's a large belch from Wraith. I just think we're kind of getting how this guy is now.
All right.
Sorry, it's from the boat.
Okay. Yeah, so as you are all escorted through Arkhold, how do each of you feel about being inside of this penitentiary at this point? Like, what's going on in each of your characters' minds? We'll start with you, Deb. What's going on for Maeve? Having not seen any prisoners just yet, and certainly there's not any notions of this place has a heinous quality to it, at least not that you can see anyway, because it looks other than, the towers bristling with cannons, it does look like a sleepy nighttime town. What is going on for Maeve as she's walking through this place?
I think she recognizes that because this is an island and so difficult to escape, she's on edge because she's used to being kind of out in nature and in the forest and unconfined, and she senses the confinement in this space, and so she doesn't love being here.
All right. And Ian, what's going on with Wraith other than the obvious jesting that he's putting himself through? Like, what is he feeling? Is he using the jest to cover up something?
He is 1,000%. He's using the jest to cover in how nervous he is, and he's a little bit frightened because Wraith has been in positions to where he has been imprisoned. Nothing as crazy as this, but he knows this life. Like he's been in this situation before. So in the back of his mind, although he has this order from the initiative says that he's there for a job, a part of him is thinking, they sent me here to keep me here. And so he's like overcompensating with the jokes and the jests because he's nervous as hell.
All right. And Sai?
Sai is waiting to see the perceived horrors of this place based on, stories. And as of right now, like you had said, it seems quaint, if a little eerie. But they have pretty distinct opinions about keeping people prisoner and letting them wither away in a place such as this. So I think there's a spot of tension waiting for what they believe is the inevitable reveal of something horrifying.
All right. As you all are making your way through to the final few feet of the administrative building, you are abruptly snapped out of whatever these thoughts are that are going through your heads as one of the guards that has been escorting you just stops all of you, steps in front of you, and drifts his eyes between you. He's a human man, probably in his late 40s, early 50s, has a look of a grizzled veteran about him, and he looks at each of you and he says, all right, so here's some ground rules that we need to go over. Prisoner that you're about to see doesn't know anything about your arrival. They were only just notified as your ship came into dock. And whatever this conversation that you're about to have with this man is, please keep it calm. We do not tolerate anything that would cause one of our prisoners to become uneased. Everyone here, we do our best to make sure that we keep things on an even keel, and that's the way it is going forward and the way it will always be. If you have any difficulties with that, well, you're never going to be admitted back to the island again unless you commit a crime. Are we understood?
Yes, sir.
Of course.
Yep.
But this particular individual is I wouldn't exactly call them a model prisoner, but they're a good sort. We haven't had a lot of trouble with them. They've had some skirmishes here and there with a few individuals over the 5 years that they've been here, but overall I'm not overly concerned, and I don't know what kind of clout the three of you have, but the fact that you're getting to do this conversation privately says a lot. We will be just outside the door, and if we hear any commotion, we'll be coming in very quickly.
Understood.
Yes.
Is there an off switch to where we can just flick them off and just take them?
What?
What?
What are you talking about?
Nothing.
No, seriously, I need to know. What are you talking about?
Nothing. I've been drinking.
No, you haven't. Because all I can smell on you is vomit.
Because of the drinking. It all falls in the same deception. No, he doesn't. It is a 9.
You do know that forged are living beings, right? An off switch is...
Okay, got it.
Some of us did know that, just so you're aware.
They didn't know that. That's why I asked.
I'm
because
pretty
I asked
sure a
them,
follower
and they
of
didn't.
Nocturnus would. So I'm at least going to assume that she knows it.
Are we at the door? Is it
Yes,
open?
you are literally... No, the door's
I'm like
not
gonna
open.
take these two and like face them
I was-
around the other way, just to try.
I was
get them
I was
out of
hoping we were
there.
at the door, just having this conversation.
You are literally
Alright,
at the
sorry.
door. And yes, as you do that, he just like, all right, yes, let's get on. And he just turns without even finishing his statement and steps up to the door. He knocks on it twice. You hear 4 slides of metal like raking across the door. And what you had originally thought was a wooden door, after hearing this, you can tell that either through illusion or some amazingly good craftsmanship, this wooden door is very obviously metal. And after the 4 metallic scraping sounds finish, you hear this chunk, and the door itself is pushed open towards you. And as it pushes open, the guardsman that had been talking to you just kind of grabs the edge. And as he grabs the edge, you can see that the door itself is like 4 inches thick. And he just slides it open, takes a bit of effort for him to do so. And as you make your way in, you can see some pretty serious barricades that are used to lock the door in place. There's another gentleman standing on the inside, guardsman, just like the rest that you've dealt with so far. You basically step into one room, and then the doors close behind you, and the heavy chunks of metal behind you. It operates as kind of an airlock almost. With this door closing, the next door gets opened, a little bit less heavy, perhaps less secure, but still, like, none of you believe that you'd be able to do anything to harm these doors themselves. That door ends up getting opened, and you're escorted basically through a hallway. The building that you're in, through the hallway, at the very least, there are no windows or anything. Everything is mostly illuminated. It's perhaps a little bit darker. Maybe that's just a nighttime choice, who knows. But the magical sconces that adorn the walls seem to be giving off less light than you would have expected. And you are led down this hallway only of about 20 or 30 feet. You see a few doors that you pass by, no windows or anything through them. They're all closed, and right away you can feel like this place is like confining you. Like there's just this sense of impression of wall upon you. Eventually you are led to the end of the hallway, and you can see that the hallway splits going off to either side, but you don't go down either of those paths. You are led up to a more basic door with a relatively simple lock, and there are 2 guardsmen standing immediately outside of this door. The door is opened and opens wide for you to make your way in as they gesture to let you through. It's also worth noting that none of your possessions were taken from you. In this case, you get the sense that perhaps that also has something to do with the individuals that arranged all of this. And as you make your way inside, Annika, would you please describe Bucket for us?
Yeah, real quick, can I ask what exactly does this space look like?
It's a very simple room with a single table and 4 chairs around. All of the table and chairs are all made of metal, by the way. There is no wood to be had. You are not chained, you are not confined. You're wearing the casual clothing that is given to all prisoners here. Simple brown tunic and brown pants. Yeah.
Cool. So as the group steps into the space, they see a forged man with blue eyes and a blue light radiating from his chest, wearing the simple garb previously described, as he's leaning back in a chair, legs propped up on the table, just very relaxed. And if you recall our friend Bucket from the Lost Masks one-shot Miko hosted a few weeks ago, we find ourselves looking at a new Bucket. Whereas before, you may remember an era of automation, there's only a small trace of those rustic robotic ways remaining in this Bucket. In the 5 years that have passed since we saw him last, those automated heirs have been replaced by a forge whose bright blue eyes flick with intelligence, and his movements are filled with the quiet grace of a man who's a wizard with a sword, though without it at the moment, you may notice that he's developed a slight twitch as his hand searches for a sword that isn't there. He's abandoned the trench coat and brimmed hat in lieu of simpler fashions, and while a smirk dawns his features at the moment, the word heavy comes to mind when you assess him long enough. There's weight that he carries in his shoulders now, and as he takes in the group before him, a chuckle escapes his lips. These humanoids are why I was taken from my prison. This is going to be good, he says pleasantly.
As the 3 of you make your way inside, hearing the voice of Bucket for the first time, the door with a heavy clunk slams shut behind you, and there's a chunk as the lock for it slides into place. There are 3 empty chairs.
Sai will go to sit. Hello, Bucket. My name is Sai. This is Maeve and Wraith. We're here to speak with you.
I do not mean to pry, but do you by any chance happen to have 6 fingers on your right hand?
Nope.
My father was killed by a 6-fingered man. No worries. So why have you come? You interrupt my prison life and you say nothing? This is very strange.
We've come to potentially, if you're willing to come with us, get you out of here.
And what would make you want to do such a thing?
We are tasked with finding a certain gnome we think you know.
Well, perhaps I know what you speak of, but why do you want to know?
There have been some thefts recently, and the gnome seems to be popping up. He has been gone for 5 years, and now suddenly he's been sighted and thefts have been happening. We're trying to find him.
What makes you think I care about this gnome?
You're one of the only people that was affiliated with this gnome.
Affiliated and for what? I am left to rot on this rock for 5 years. Nothing from this man who used to call me, let me call him Maker and Waker. I was a fool once and I will not be a fool again.
You could have the opportunity to tell that to him, to his face.
To see him locked in this place rather than you.
You get me out of my prison sentence if I help you.
Yes.
What is your interest in this man who steals these masks? He is nothing to you. What is he stealing?
That's unimportant at the moment. We have a job to do, just as anyone does. And that job involves getting you out of here early and trying to find your former friend.
I see. So the difference between treason and patriotism is only a matter of dates. What was before theft will now be liberation in the eyes of your initiative. If time was all that was needed for you humanoids to see the sense in letting me go, then I am happy to wait.
Are you really happy to be here? Of all places. There's nowhere else better that you could think of.
I see it as more that you have been brought to me for a purpose, and if it helps me fulfill my revenge, then I may just take you up on this offer. But I will require my armaments. I will not go into this danger alone or without my tools. Will you give these things to me?
We can certainly make that happen. Now, you say revenge, do you mean on your former gnome friend or this six-fingered man?
Unless you want to trade your mission, I will leave mine to myself.
Fair enough.
So, you have me on board. What is your grand mission now? Will we sit here and talk forever?
I'd personally rather not.
So then who are you? Who come to me with this mission?
We're us.
Us, is that what I will call you when I work with you now? Hey, us, come help me over here. It's just a simple matter.
You could
This
become
entire
one of
time-
us.
Yeah. This entire time, Wraith has not said a word and has not moved his eyes off of Bucket. And after this whole well, who are you conversation, Wraith kind of just slinks in his chair and he goes, "Listen, I don't like being here. You don't like being here. You have a skull. I want to get paid. You don't even know who we are. Just know that you're coming with us."
I don't have to, though, and then your mission's going to take longer, so I don't think it's unfair of me to ask who you are. Apparently I'm Australian now.
Right? I'm struggling over here too. Well, you could sit here and wait and your revenge just slowly slips through your hands. Or you could just be cooperative, take it now, you could come with us.
Alright. What have I got to lose?
Yeah,
That's
and
the
before we
spirit.
leave, I have one other question, and I want you to be very honest with me. And he gets real close as he can. Hopefully Bucket kind of leans in too. Do you have an off switch to where we could just flip it into where you would just go to?
I think you should ask a woman that same question. And then he leans back. Just
I like him.
Damn.
I like him. I like him. Come on, let's go. I'm done.
So, as the three of you stand up, Sai slides the document over to Bucket. That is a full and officious document, as far as Bucket can tell in any way, shape, or form, that commutes the 20 years remaining on his sentence for services rendered. It is signed by individuals that are part of the Greater and Treskillian government, and as long as Bucket has that document in his possession at this point, Bucket is a free individual. A lot of you stand, go over to the door, knock upon the door. There's a clanking of commotion, and as the lock is undone, the door slides open. That same guardsman before that had escorted you all here stands and looks at the now four of you, and he has this quizzical look upon his face. There's a moment of hesitation before Sai reaches into her pouch and pulls out a similar document that they just handed to Bucket, hands it over to the guardsman silently, wordlessly. The guardsman just kind of cocks an eyebrow and starts reading through the scroll, and you can tell that there's consternation upon his face, but he, through gritted teeth, just nods and rolls up the scroll. Right. Processing it is then. And he starts walking away, and the implication is that all of you follow. And eventually you are led down a different hallway than the one you had come in from, to another separate building where you find less guards and more of the support staff, as it were, for Arkhold. And there's a great deal of time spent in this scenario of having to be processed. There's a lot of various paperwork, especially in this particular case where no notice was given that this individual was to be leaving Arkhold at this point. That creates a little bit of friction, we'll say, amongst the rest of the guards and the personnel. There's a lot of questions being asked and a lot of frustrated glances and annoyances that all seem to go your way, or be directed your way, I should say. And eventually, after a great deal of time, several hours in fact, you find yourselves, Bucket, having been given not just a place to, or not just all of his possessions back that he had been, that had been delivered to the island with him, but also an opportunity to change. And a lot of you are being escorted once again down the very, very long dock that you had traversed to make your way onto Arkhold. I'm curious, Annika, what is going through Bucket's mind as he is making this walk? Once again, having just hours ago believed that this wouldn't happen for another couple of decades.
I think it hasn't sunk in fully yet, probably until he gets on the boat and he can look back on the island, he'll have kind of a stronger moment of, wow, I'm actually leaving. But for now, there's minor people that he's considered friends, so he's sort of saying farewell to those folks and explaining what's happening so that they can take care of whatever arrangements he has on the island with everybody, and just kind of gathering his things and being given these items by these folks that seem to have all these resources he doesn't understand how they have. And
they haven't given you that stuff yet. That's happening on the boat.
They haven't given me stuff that.
Yeah.
Never mind. I don't have any stuff. I don't believe in things. I'm just
you have the possessions
forge.
that you were dropped off on the island with.
Yes, that's what I have.
Yeah, great. So as you then step up the walkway to the scribe, the siren scribe rather, it finally starts to sink in. You feel the sway of the boat under your feet. Don't know if Bucket gets seasick like Wraith does, but maybe some sensations of what that freedom feels like, or maybe a haunting memory of the boat ride that brought you here. In either case, very quickly, LaDonna and Captain Volvis set out to have the ship undone from its moorings as rapidly as possible and get underway once again. As the cool evening air comes upon all of you, and you find yourselves once again, although perhaps not Wraith, looking back at the island as it as you sail away from this place. Several hours, perhaps, into the night, perhaps midnight coming upon. Is there anything that any of you would like to discuss at this point? Like perhaps informing Bucket of the mission, since that was only glossed over a little bit.
Touched on.
Yeah.
Wanted to make sure they were down first.
I think Sai...
Dance battle ensues.
Oh no. Can't do the robot. I think Sai would definitely take a moment to, before divulging, the whole deal, I think they'd want to ask Bucket, would you have stayed? Really? If this was offered to you, but you didn't particularly like our appeal?
They don't even know how long I will live, so what have I got to lose by waiting?
Interesting. Well, we do appreciate that you came. We're not the only ones who appreciate it. I think you made the right choice.
Right and wrong are just morals that people use to help themselves sleep better at night.
That's true.
Well, should we actually talk about what we need to do next?
I mean, you all don't seem to be in a particular rush, but whenever you are ready.
If I keep talking, I'm gonna throw up again, so please, anybody, please.
Throw up that way.
Sai will look over to Maeve.
Well, we're starting back at the Cogsworn Collective, and we're going to investigate there.
Any reaction from Bucket at the mention of the Cogsworn Collective?
Maybe like a raised eyebrow, but he's pretty suave these days, so whereas before he might have been...
eyebrows?
It's just
I
metal.
mean, just that, if
It's a
you
windshield wiper.
If he did have eyebrows, it gives me that impression that he's raising one.
Got it.
The eye socket shows that, I'm imagining.
There we go.
But no, yeah, he's a little more suave these days, so he's probably trying not to give away too much right now, because he was taught by his good friend Pocket, not to throw a friend under the carriage and whatnot.
During this time, I want to send word to our contact to let them know what that we got Bucket.
Oh, to Lady Ilrain?
Lady Ilrain, yeah.
Okay. You pull out one of your sending kits and write off a quick message to her, and you get basically a 2-word reply that says, "Well done."
Not a lot of talking out of that one.
As you all stand there on the deck of the ship, spending a little bit of time perhaps to discuss some things, I forget who had the bag of holding? Okay, yeah, so maybe with some prodding from Maeve or Sai, Wraith goes into the bag of holding and starts producing the various additional equipment that is offered to Bucket to apparently assist with this mission. Did you have
Right,
something?
so if you
Go ahead.
right, so if you're gonna be hanging with this, you need to make sure that you're properly equipped. So here's a couple things from our benefactors to get you on your way. Don't eat them. I don't know why they told me to tell you that for some reason, but don't do that. But it's gonna help you out through the mission. And he kind of does it kind of like the same way in the fashion of that guy from Austin Powers, like one crevasse, one it's kind of just like taking a pull of everything that he's pulling out of the bag of holding.
And as Bucket receives these items, he just kind of progressively becomes more like, what would I need these? Like, why are these? And he just turns to everyone. Do you not think I will survive this experience? I'm starting to question whether this was the right decision. I felt a little better about my island at this point.
Well, now
It's
that
like-
you have all of this equipment, you're definitely going to be fine.
We all have it. It's standard. It's kind of cool though.
Right, but you know what fine stands for, right? It means that you are freaked out, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. Fine.
Are you sure you don't have an off switch that I could just, like, maybe
you
just
don't
for
seem
this?
to have ever found one.
I still like you. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Bucket is proficient with hand crossbows, right?
Yes.
As a fighter, yeah. So at one point, Wraith kind of just hands Bucket the bracer that looks kind of a little bit strange, a little bit bulky in certain places, and as Bucket is handling the bracer, kind of just inspecting it, there is a contact with a particular part of it, and a hand crossbow without the handle per se springs out from the back of the bracer and has a bolt already preloaded into it. Give me a dexterity check, please, for Bucket.
Now listen, you want to be
Nice.
careful with this one. You want to I don't know if you should do that.
Oh, God. I got a 5.
Okay. Give me a acrobatics check, Wraith.
Wait, I'm pretty nimble.
I hope so.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's 18.
Okay. Yeah, as like you get part, you want to be careful, and then the bolt just flies out. Wraith just ducks his head to the side, and it embeds itself in the mast a few feet behind him.
Actually, if I could,
Sure.
DM,
What do you got?
because I have
Right.
my
Yep.
yeah,
Absolutely.
my new favorite thing. They're now bracers of missile snaring. It pops out and Wraith kind of goes like, yeah. So don't do that.
Maeve just
And,
stands in the
just-
background and is clapping at the show.
Thank you. Don't do that. Just be a little bit careful. Just please.
I'm so sorry. That was a complete accident.
No. These things do happen. It's fun.
I'm a little resty.
It happens all the time.
Resty.
Ah! Oh, just okay, fine.
All right. So, leaving Bucket perhaps a little bit in the dark about things, does Bucket have any particular questions that he is going to ask of his newfound companions before seemingly arriving at the city-state of Emana?
How do you all know each other?
Through work.
Yeah,
Right, and
we've all worked before.
What do you do for work?
Honestly, we typically do things like this. We are sent on various missions to either acquire things or people sometimes. We operate quietly. We have access in ways that not everyone does, and that affords us some perks that make us very effective. And I think you'll find that as we move forward here.
So
Well, it's not all we do. We do other stuff too.
What would you say you do?
I mean, outside of all of this, I'd like to bake. And he gives like a stern look at everybody. Yeah, I mean, we have
Quite good.
things.
Ah, so you do illegal work, you mean?
Yes.
On occasion, if need be.
If it needs to be done.
Yes, I just find it amusing how when you do it, it is heroism, but when me and my friends do it, to survive, it is thievery. It's very interesting to me as well.
That definitely rings with Wraith, and he stays stone quiet.
This seems to bother you.
I wouldn't. I mean, it doesn't really bother me, but I understand what you mean.
We all come from somewhere.
Well, excuse me for a moment.
So the next couple of days are more unpleasantness for Wraith. But after about 2 days of travel, you get the sense that the scribe is sailing as fast as she can muster, and maybe pushing their crew a little bit hard to make sure that you get to your destination as quickly as you can. And you eventually, as the suns are setting behind you, you find yourselves making close proximity to the city-state of Amana. Within a coastal inlet along the Sea of Entreskel, the city-state of Amana was once a simple farming township. It is now a haven for scholars, adventurers, and merchants from pretty much all over the world. After the Alluvance, Amana was kind of transformed from its simple roots into this coastal city, and in that post-Alluvance time, an influx of historians and refugees, as well as treasure seekers, brought a bit of diversity and a sense of purpose to Amana, which eventually led to the creation of the Hearthbound Assembly, a parliament of 51 elected representatives that govern the city-state and ensure the stability of it. Amana is revered for its connection to the lost kingdom of Entreskel, it calling itself the last remaining city from that grand or once grand civilization. It hosts numerous museums and historical societies that are dedicated to unearthing and preserving this ancient heritage that it links to. And central to all of these efforts is the Grand Archive of Lost Epochs. It is a massive, not just museum, but also researching society of individuals from all over the globe that come to understand the lost civilization. Furthermore, the city's whispers of treasure from the hidden treasures from the sunken depths of what was once Greater Entreskel have drawn adventurers as well as guilds to form within Amana. Places such as the Deep Current Explorers and the Saltwind Scavengers. These places often are seen preparing for their next expedition in the bustling market that is the Delver's Dockside. At Amana's heart lies the vibrant port district that you all are slowly drifting your way towards. It's a hub of commerce and exploration, and fairly distinct cultural exchange takes place on these docks, as the docks themselves take up a good 20% of the entire city. All of this is, of course, overseen by the Dockmaster's headquarters, and the Hearthbound Assembly focuses on preserving the rich history of not just Emana, but of Entreskel as well. And they tried their best to foster the economic growth and keep up the reputation of the city's cultural and knowledge hub foundations. It's a distinct place of it's a testament really to all of the people that live here in what they started as a millennia ago to what they have become. And the sense of community, if you spend any time in this city-state, is palpable. You can fully see this enduring spirit through all of the various peoples that are in the various places in the docks, whether they be tireless traders or people from the Hearthbound Assembly, people getting ready to dive to go and look for some lost treasure that they might find, or find their riches to set themselves up in the future, to make their dreams come true. All of these people uphold the allure of Emana, and it feels a lot like home, particularly for Bucket, as this homecoming perhaps is a little bit weighing upon them. This was, of course, the city that they left from to make their way to Arkhold Isle, and now they find themselves standing on the docks of this wondrous city once again. But before we get to all of that, we're going to take our break, ladies and gentlemen, because we have made it to the halfway point. It's amazing how quickly time flies by. We are going to do our best to keep the break short as possible. So if you're watching us on VOD, it's just going to be a matter of seconds. And if you're sticking around and watching us live, thank you so much. We greatly appreciate you joining us for the evening, and we will see you again in just a few minutes. Bye for now. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Hey, the music actually reset its volume correctly this time. Yay! Welcome back. Thank you for joining us for the evening. Thank you to everybody that stuck around. We are going to jump right back into the action here as our group of intrepid investigators, seemingly on a secret mission, have managed to acquire the help of one Bucket in an effort to track down a former accomplice, acquaintance, maybe one-time friend of theirs. And we find everyone back in the city-state of Emana, a glorious place with a rich history, but all of these individuals are not really up to finding out more about that history, as they just want to find a tavern. Wraith in particular probably needs a drink from all of that unpleasant regurgitation that he has been doing the past several days. And maybe the others just need a rest from having to deal with that circumstance. But regardless of all of that, you end up making your way to a small tavern, no place of note, just a place that has simple rooms and simple fare, doing your best to lay low. And as you all sit down for some perhaps summer ale, because we are in the latter half of the summer season here, and some simple food, avoiding the seafood for Wraith's sake and probably for everybody else's sake as well, you sit down to perhaps converse once again.
How you feeling, big guy?
I've been worse, but that'll be fine in a minute. Just grabs his ale and he's just like,
Bucket, do they have things for you here? I didn't think to ask.
I actually do not need things, but thank you for asking.
Oh, sure. Well,
so,
yeah.
Screw it. Bucket, why don't you tell us about your friend and what's, I mean, we know our parts in this. What's, and he like grumbles off. He's still trying to get his stomach right.
When you say my friend, which friend do you mean? My little pocket friend? Perhaps Rivet or Pinch? Or maybe Thimble? And at that, he summons a familiar face, a replica of himself in miniature form, but with the little wings, and Thimble appears on his shoulder. And they do their secret handshake as they have always done.
That's cool. That's well. No. Tell us about Pocket.
My pocket. My pocket had a set of skills that were better at getting things when we really needed them, that other people had and did not need.
That sounds like a good friend. Why? Do you seem to be angry at him? Why?
I don't know. Would you like sitting in jail for 5 years and not having your beloved friend rescue you?
Can you tell us your version of the events that took place at the Cogsworn Collective?
We were just trying to get some masks so that we could get some money so that we could survive. My companions require food and sleep and other humanoid type things to survive, and I was willing to help them because my dear Pocket had awakened me from my slumber some years prior. And it turns out the masks were evil. They consumed my friends, they gave them ungodly powers. This is how I am able to remember myself and my true maker and the man who killed him, and I would like to know why my pocket would choose this over our friendship, honestly.
So, the masks, you said they took over?
Oh yes, I could not put my fingers on it, but it is certainly something that is abnormal. I do not know who they were, but not my friends.
So, did they intentionally betray you, or was this something that was a byproduct of the
It
mask?
sounds like you took the fall. That I mean, you were the fall forged.
I may have fallen, but I will rise again stronger than ever before.
Like, as a person, I am puzzled. Like, actually, just like actually puzzled. Sick. Okay.
Do you have any notion of where Pocket might have gone? Is this, I mean, frankly, in us telling you that there's a suspect who fits your friend's description going around and stealing suddenly, does that sound right? Is that...
The stealing is not surprising. The getting caught is what's surprising, especially in the state that I saw him last. So I would wonder what he is up to. because it does not seem to be a good thing.
Did you see anything else with the masks, with your friends at that time?
I saw the mask's color and the container they came in, and there's little more to say because the room was a room filled with objects both large and small and strange.
Do you still remember what the room is?
I should think so. My sensors are quite good at storing memories such as this.
And the masks, are they still there?
No, I would imagine they are still with my friends. Unfortunately, I would like to remove them from my friends if possible.
So, there were masks that took over 3 of your friends, but we're really only talking about Pocket here. What would have happened to the others? Are they a part of this, or?
I could not say. When my pocket restored my memory, I went unconscious, and I do not have a memory until my cell.
Did Pocket ever use deadly force?
No, not unless absolutely necessary, although we did come up against something that required some deadly force. There was a being protecting the masks that did not seem to like that we were wanting them.
The casualty, or the thefts that we're looking into, there were some casualties at the scenes.
And like this causes a true shadow to come over Bucket's face, like hearing that his friend who didn't necessarily murder on purpose without good reason was now causing casualties. That's a bummer to Bucket, so just a heavy sigh escapes his lips as he takes in that information.
So you're not angry with Pocket.
I am angry like a mother is angry at their child. My Pocket is but a humanoid trying to survive in this world and has made some mistakes, and I would like to slap the stupid out of him.
Well, that answers my next question.
Well,
If go ahead.
I just if I guess you gained memory back before going to prison. Is that right?
Yes.
What was that like?
Oh, it was such a flood of memory, it completely overwhelmed my sensors. I went unconscious immediately, and it took some time for me to fully process what the memories meant, but I was able to recall my maker and the man who killed him, and I hope to someday get my revenge.
Who's the man that killed him?
The six-fingered man.
Oh,
Count
with the
Tyrone Rugen, a vicious man. Lover of torture and other such nonsense in pursuit of information.
Is this a name that would be at all familiar to any of us?
You can roll a history check if you like, and we shall see how much you are able to glean from just that name.
16.
Did anyone get better than
18.
that? 18. All right. Deb?
I rolled a natural 1 for a 2.
Great. Love it. So with an 18, I will say that you know the name. You know that they work in the underworld, as it is, and that they have dealings in several different places in Greater Entrescal. You aren't familiar enough with them to know explicitly, like all of their, perhaps all of their dealings per se, but you have definitely heard the name, and it has always come with a warning in that they're an individual that should probably be avoided unless it is absolutely required for a mission that you are on.
It's a rather dangerous person to get on the wrong side of. What, were they someone that your maker knew? Or was he just a,
Well,
casualty?
he commissioned my father to make him a forge of surpassing strength and intelligence, and it took him 5 years to create myself, and 5 years more to train me in everything that I know. But when Rugen arrived to take me and do whatever he intended to do, he only promised 10% of what he initially promised my father. And when my father refused, he slayed him, and so I tried to challenge him to a duel, but Rugen left me for scraps, and if it wasn't for my dear Pocket, who found me sometime later, I would have rusted to death for sure. But Pocket was not skilled enough to fully reawaken me, so that was why I was not fully in tune with myself.
So if I was your Pocket, as you say, where would I go if I'm hiding?
We had our hiding place, but I do not know if this Pocket would go there. This Pocket didn't seem to care for our places per se.
It's not really answering my question.
I guess I'm saying, friend, that I do not know. It has been some time since I have seen my Pocket, and this man that you were describing does not sound like my friend any longer.
Well, I mean, there are certain things that, stick with you over time. I'm pretty sure he has habits.
I guess... Miko, what exactly do I know at this point?
About Rugen? Or
Yeah.
about Pocket?
Kind of both, I guess. I'm not sure how much information to reveal right now.
So you don't know anything about either of them currently, and that's probably where a lot of Bucket's hesitation comes from, and then a lot can happen in 5 years, right?
Right.
You do know that at one time, Rugen had a pretty comprehensive operation going on in Amana, and most of that involved things like theft and blackmail and, perhaps a few more unsavory crimes as well. Thank you for the raid, Rolling Nomads. Welcome in. We are just getting into the thick of some character backstory here. And so in that vein, based on the knowledge that was gifted to Bucket at his last meeting with Pocket, he would surmise that Rugen certainly has is highly unlikely that he's given up on any of those things, but it's entirely possible that his operation has grown even larger. And so I think even Bucket, with their sense of revenge, would want to probably take things a little bit carefully, knowing just the extent of Rugen's reach, as it were. As far as Pocket is concerned, if Pocket isn't here in Amana, Bucket doesn't really know where Pocket would go. He doesn't know that Pocket has any family, and certainly he understands that the mask that Pocket donned changed him dramatically. And so while he certainly wants to find Pocket, without further information, it's not really something that he's going to be able to contribute to just yet.
Okay. So, I guess, Bucket just kind of draws his hands together and puts his mouth to his lips and says, he was an evil man then, and I'm sure he is an evil man now, and whatever he is up to, it cannot be good. It could be stronger, and we must be ready for it.
I have a question, GM. So, with my background and how I got to the operatum, loosely, there hasn't been any crossings with either Rugen and his growing group, clan, posse that I could probably discern to use as leverage.
A leverage over Bucket?
In a way, yeah.
Certainly you would be able to reach out to the Artitum Corps and get more information on Rugen that you could possibly use as incentive to give to Bucket to perhaps share more, or maybe entice their help a little bit further, but nothing that you have at present, because you have steered clear of this individual as generally prescribed, and they haven't come across any of your previous missions yet. Okay. Certainly this is the closest. Just even talking about Rugen in this open capacity is the closest that you've had to come to consider what it would be like if you did end up crossing paths with this seemingly threatening individual.
Got it. So, Bucket, what is it to you to get a hold of Rugen? Like, what's the wait?
He killed my maker. He must prepare to die.
Right. Yeah, but Rugen... yeah, but from what almost anyone knows, Rugen has killed a lot of people. What makes your maker any different?
Well, my biggest fear is if my new Pocket is working with this Rugen, it cannot mean anything good.
Right.
Rugen poisons everything he touches.
So, and again, I'm just gathering my thoughts here because the boat and the drink, they take a little bit on me. The faster that you can find your Pocket, potentially the faster you can find your Rugen and get both of what you want.
I don't disagree with you, but I think until we are able to get into the Cogsworn Collective, I'm not sure we will learn much more here.
And we're gonna go to the Collective. I just want to know before we step in there that you'll be a bit more forthcoming with what you know than what you already have. Because I'm not saying I can, because I don't want to, but I believe both of our missions can be done at the same time. And with that, ladies and Bucket, I'm gonna hit the bathroom. And then he kind of walks off.
All right. Do Maeve and Sai have anything that they want to discuss with Bucket before we move on?
I think Sai is just trying to observe Bucket, not in just what he says, but how it seems to make him feel as this information is brought up and divulged, and just kind of get a gauge for the overall vibe because it's a little bit tougher, they think, with a forged than, someone that might be a bit more expressive.
Give me an insight check.
Sure.
And Annika, you can choose to roll deception or persuasion, or you could choose to fail if you so wish, to see if that gives Sai any particular insight in what Bucket is feeling through all of this.
It's a 15.
Versus a 5.
Okay.
So how's Bucket feeling at this moment?
I guess Bucket would be trying to grapple with the idea of pursuing Pocket after thinking about it for so long, while also doing the same with Count Rugen. And, he knows Pocket is the mission right now, but he'd rather go for Rugen, so it's kind of consuming a lot of his thoughts, especially now that he's out of jail, and still kind of appreciating that feeling as well. So you could say he's got feelings in his metal structured art.
Okay.
Ew, feelings.
Sai won't bring anything up right now, but just, packs away that knowledge.
All right. Deb, do you want to have Maeve participate anymore in this?
She would just not necessarily. She's got fairly good passive insight, so she can sense a little bit of the feelings coming off of Bucket. So she's just gonna druidcraft a little flower and give it to Bucket.
Oh.
And kind of Iron Giant-esque, he takes it and smells it, and you can tell he weirdly appreciates it, but he doesn't say anything to that effect. But you do see him tuck it into his little linen shirt bandolier here.
Do you sleep or rest in any way? Is this going to be weird? You just sort of waiting for us to...
I'm willing to be
Rafe stumbles back
stationary.
at the table. It's an off switch, I'm telling you.
I wish there was one for you. But no, I will simply remain stationary for a time, and then I will move again.
It's essentially what we do. Okay, cool.
Yes, you just can't do it with your eyes open.
Well, I suppose we should rest in whatever way we each need to, and tomorrow we can make the next steps forward.
Yeah. Sounds good. I'm a bit tired.
Seems like a plan.
Drink some water, Wraith, please.
I've had enough water. Trust me.
All right. You each head off to your various rooms. Bucket could get a room if he wanted, or he could just chill in the common room, I guess. Whichever.
I think he'd probably get a room just because the stationary part he'd want to feel a little more secure at least.
Okay.
It does say he has to be motionless for 6 hours, so there's a little bit of invulnerability there.
Yeah. I mean, you still get to use your person. You're still aware of your surroundings, though, even when you're resting as a forged. But I take your point. So Bucket gets a room with, I don't know if this matters, but with a comfortable bed versus the bed that he's been dealing with for the past 5 years. His room has a window that actually opens. And, despite the simplicity of the place that you are staying in, it's certainly more well adorned than the prison cell that Bucket had occupied for the past 5 years. The rest of you find your own sleep in whatever evening rituals that you have, and wake up the next day feeling much refreshed. Get a quick breakfast, perhaps some water for once, and then head out once again towards the Cogsworn Collective. And in this particular case, the lot of you actually seem to be following Bucket, as Bucket knows the way, more so than the rest of you. The rest of you have certainly studied Imana and could find your way, but Bucket seems to know the place like the back of his hand and leads you to the Cogsworn Collective with relative ease. As you arrive at the Cogsworn Collective, it is worth noting that the collective itself is a massive array of buildings. It houses hundreds upon hundreds of tinkerers, inventors, smiths, students, teachers, and the like, within its many workshops and halls. As you make your way inside, it is open to the public. It is not, isolated. There's nobody like standing at the door telling you to halt or anything like that. And once you make your way into the workshops, you see a huge array of workbenches and storage places. The upper mezzanine itself is just crawling with people. There's so many different people going to and fro, but all of that kind of pales in comparison to the cacophony of noise that occupies this place. When Bucket was here last, it was very quiet because it was in the middle of the night and he was here to steal something. And now that Bucket is here in the broadest of day with the hundreds upon hundreds of individuals moving around with great expediency in this place, it feels very starkly different than his previous endeavors here. You are relatively quickly noticed by an individual who asks what your business is. One of you holds up your insignia of change that looks to be one of the Mariner Guard, the Mariner Guard are essentially the lawkeepers of Imana. And you hold up this symbol or this insignia to signify who you are, ostensibly, even though we all know that you're not really that. And the individual doesn't bat an eye, so he just nods, and you can barely hear over the cacophony of noise that he will go and find Wuzadith. And he just hustles off in the distance. You stand for perhaps another 5 or 10 minutes, and you see amidst the chaos of people that are moving to and fro in this space, a number of them start getting out of the way as a dwarven woman in probably her elder years comes charging forth through the space. She has frazzled gray hair going in all kinds of different directions. The braids that she keeps are most notably different lengths and different arrangements, and probably done by different individuals on different days, depending upon which braid happens to fall out or become unknit on any one particular day. Her clothing is, while well kept and well appointed, it is covered in the occasional, or it is marred by the occasional smudge of soot or grease, and her hands themselves, her fingertips in particular, appear to have charcoal or soot or ink or ash or something kind of covering them pretty exemplary. And as she charges her way down this down the center part of this warehouse workshop, and everyone is kind of ducking out of the way, you can see there's a slight, tilt to her step. She's not really going at her full pace. Very obviously not going at her full pace to reach you. She's just kind of moving along and has a slight smile upon her face as she approaches the lot of you, and she puts her hands on her hips and kind of throws the small half cloak at her back aside a little bit, and she just raises one eyebrow and looks at the lot of you and says, "Well, you ain't no mariner god if I ever saw any." And she just laughs. I'm kidding. So what brings the Mariner God to the Cogsworn Collective today? Don't all of you speak
Safety
up at once, one of you's got to do it at some point or other.
Safety inspection.
Oh. Well, that just went and ruined my whole day, didn't it? Thanks for that.
Sorry.
Are you?
Yeah, no, I don't want to be here.
Okay, fair enough. I suppose you want to see where the crime happened first, as, that's what all you lot seem to want to see every day that you come in here.
That
Yep.
would be very helpful, yes.
All right, follow me. And as she starts to turn to walk away, lead you on further into the shop, her eyes kind of drift over Bucket for a second, and for the briefest of moments, you think that there might be a sense of recognition, but then she just kind of shakes her head and, picks up her glasses onto her nose a bit and turns and continues heading away. She leads you through the space, and the cacophony of noise just gets louder. After you walk beside one workbench and something explodes beside you, and you hear this, giddy, joyous laughter from, some gnome that's sitting at a workbench right there, in response to exploding things. And then you're drifting by a blacksmith who's sitting there pounding on some hunk of heated iron, trying to shape it into something. You have no idea what he's shaping it into, but he apparently does. And just the sheer chaos of this space makes all of you, maybe even Bucket, I'm not sure, but it makes you wonder, just how does anything get done here? Like, do these people even know what the other is doing next to them? And most assuredly, no one knows definitively. But Uzadith happily just kind of, well, not happily, she's a little bit morose at having to lead a bunch of people through her shops for safety inspection. But she does escort you through all of the chaos and up the stairs at the far end of the shop leading up to the mezzanine. And as you get up to the top of these stairs, there is several strips of cloth that have been draped across the top of the stairs, and she just kind of groans in annoyance and frustration as she lifts one of them up over her head and ducks way down low. You can see that she's favoring her hips and her knees a little bit as she makes her way beyond what is very obviously to all of you a cordoned off area of the mezzanine. Most of you are of sufficient height that you can kind of step over, or you can choose to lift up the cloth and step under. Either way, all four of you find your way into the space as well. And as Uzadith just kind of steps to the side a little bit and kind of looks around, you can see that there is a distinct somberness and kind of melancholy to her expression as you look around what once was a probably bustling workshop area. It's also an area that Bucket is intimately familiar with, even though his memories are from 5 years ago. this distinctive spot in which he stands is one where he recalls a certain invention that his group of ne'er-do-well companions and he had to avoid in order to move past and to the eventual room that they needed to steal their stuff from, in which there was a very large, distinct orrery of sorts and sitting on one of the workshop tables. And as you all take in the scene, you can see that there are char marks on the ground in the vicinity. There is a completely and utterly destroyed workbench of some kind with thick, bristling wood just torn to pieces in several ways. Not like thrown apart, but as if it was just crushed in the space in which it sat and dropped to the floor. And you look around the space, and there is also a distinct void on the floor, where a void in the sense of the floor is marked with ash and soot and, char marks and such. And there is a humanoid-shaped void in those char marks upon the floor, laying at such awkward angles that whatever individual might have occupied that when all of this happened, they either are dead or no longer have function of any of their limbs because of the disjointed ways in which the silhouette is twisted around. And Wuzadeth just kind of steps back a little bit, and through her slight grimacing and stony expressions, she just says, "Lost a lot of good people that day. Wasn't fun.
What
Wasn't fun
happened
at
here?
all. I mean, I assume you all read the report?"
We've read the report, but we'd like to hear your account as well. Sometimes things get left out.
Oh, all right. Well, it was 10 days ago now. Broad daylight. Halfway through the day, and things explode every now and then in here. It's not really. And as she says that, there's just off in the distance a yeah, like that. But well, this explosion was different. And as she's kind of like settling down a little bit, there's a distinct sadness in her. And well, Nathaniel, he and she kind of lingers over the spot on the floor. Something happened. We didn't really know what at first, and everybody came rushing in. The explosion was, it shook the building. And as the dust kind of settled and everything, there he was. Pretty sure he was a gnome. He was taller than most halflings, so I think he was a gnome anyway. That's what I told everyone, and I don't got no reason to say anything different now. He had this weird mask on, and well, it was strange. And he just kind of stood there over everything, the chaos, and there was this weird vortex of magic around him, and it was, all of us kind of stood back. We didn't know what to do. But he wasn't focused on us. It was, he didn't even care about Tannen, and well, he was fixated on the Ori. Oh right, yeah, the Ori. From the report, the chronometratone. It was we didn't even really know everything that it did at this point. It was kind of peculiar, and, well, it wasn't supposed to come out like that, but and things, and they don't always work out in the way that we thought. And it was weird, though, in that it seemed to affect magic in a certain way that kind of slowed things down sometimes and sped things up other times. And yeah, we were still studying. And he just kind of touched it, and it vanished. And then and she gestures at the workbench, and then, that imploded, and that was weird. And then he just kind of looked at us, and he just kind of drifted his gaze between us, and you could see his eyes in the mask, and it was like he was searching for somebody. And I guess he found who he was looking for, because he kind of just pointed a finger at Derridin, and this beam of magic came out of his finger and turned Derridin to ash. And then he just vanished.
So sorry for those that you've lost. It's
Thank
a
you.
horrible thing.
Do you remember what the color of the mask was?
Yeah, it was kind of a purplish pink type color. Sorry, dwarves don't. Our eyes are a little bit different, so the colors are a little wonky for us sometimes. So maybe I've got it wrong, but it was kind of, I think, purple and pink in different hues.
And hearing the colors, like, Bucket gets a very serious look on his face. He knows it was Pocket at that point.
Do you know... I hate to ask this. I don't mean to sound unkind, but the young person who the culprit pointed at, was it looked like they were specifically targeted, sought out, or just in the wrong place?
She kind of like takes a deep breath and like sobers herself up a little bit. Yeah, I mean, it felt like that. Now, I can talk to people fine, but I'm better at talking to... And she kind of looks at Bucket for a second. Machines? People are harder. It's easy to read, and machine, no. And it felt like it to me that he was searching for a person, and he found them. You could talk to some of the others if you want, and maybe get their sense of things, but that's what I got.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is it going to end up in the report this time? Because I feel like I've said most of this stuff at least once or twice.
We will definitely make note of everything you've said, and it's much appreciated.
Anything to help the cause, Especially if, it leads to finding out the bastard who did this.
Did you notice, did he take anything when he vanished?
I mean, other than disappearing the Ori first, before he
Right.
disappeared? I didn't see anything per se.
Okay.
It was kind of weird, though. One thing, now that I think about it, he didn't take this, but when he disappeared, we found some sand. on the ground where he left. Like, really fine, like... So I don't know if any of you have been south to any of the deserts, but it felt like that to me.
Well, that's definitely not something that was in the report, so...
I mean, I just thought of it, really. Sorry.
No, that's... thank you. It's crucial information.
Well, you know, we at the Cogsworn Collective do our best to provide crucial information and invention to all those that... whatever. Do you want me to, like, set up discussions for some of the other folk that were here that day? Maybe you can talk to them too? That...
I'll look to the rest of my group.
Can't hurt.
Great. Think I can get you 4 people? Maybe?
That's
I gotta
wonderful.
see who's in, you know. We don't exactly keep it's kind of a everybody comes and goes as they please sort of thing, and you know, maybe somebody's not in today, but I'll see what I can do. And you guys are good here. I'm just gonna go. And do you need anything else from me before I go?
No, you've been
that's
very
fine.
helpful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And as she's like leaving the space, you can tell that her demeanor changes, like as she starts making her way down the stairs. Like you can visibly see that just being in the presence of where this scene was had a very daunting effect upon like her psyche. And as she makes her way down, you see her, you know, kind of resort to some of that more chipper demeanor that she had before, as she starts talking to a few people down at the bottom of the stairs, leaving all of you to sit and stand here in the middle of this horrendous crime scene.
Yeah, can Bucket do an investigation of this horrible crime scene?
I don't know. Can Bucket do an investigation?
That is his background, is to investigate.
I'd
Well,
love to assist.
Let's see what the dice say. Sai's gonna assist. Cool. So, Bucket, you can roll an investigation check with advantage then.
Woo! Thanks, Sai. Oh, God. Oh, God. Well, I totally dropped the ball on that one. So my first roll was an 11, and my second roll was a nat 1, which turned into 7. So I guess we're going with 11.
Okay.
Bucket walks into a post.
I mean, 11 is not post faceplant worthy. You're not Looney Tunesing it up just yet. But I will say that you are very heavily distracted by the imprint of, or the silhouette of the figure on the ground. And you do notice there is a small fine powder in one spot that is like a whitish brown color that is definitely not from like the soot and the ash and stuff of the rest of the scene. And so you are able to collect a little bit of the sand that was mentioned. And yeah, I think for Bucket in this point, he's probably envisioning like a crowd of these people gathered around at some distance, and Pocket standing in the center of them, kind of looking and singling someone out, and kind of envisioning that haunting memory, or haunting thought of a memory. Shakes him a little bit. Give me a history check, though.
Alrighty. Oof. Yeah, 19.
19. The name of his ashen victim stands out. The Bucket. He remembers Pocket in a drunken, like, rant. In one of the many times that he was complaining about the Cogsworn Collective and not being or in being basically kicked out of it, and Bucket remembers that name coming up a few times as definitely someone Pocket wanted revenge on.
Okay. I think I'm totally blanking on that name right now.
Oh, Dodanen. That was the guy that got turned to ash.
Okay. So Bucket's gonna kneel down and kind of put a hand on the print, and just a heavy sigh escapes his lips.
What is it? What did you?
I know the man who died here.
One of them. There were
Okay.
two.
Who were they? To you?
Dodanen, just a man who I knew once, or that Pocket knew, I should say.
Would that be someone that Pocket would want to harm? If they're the one that was sought out specifically?
No. Said with a question.
Can I do an insight check on Bucket to see if they're like purposely not being cooperative?
I mean, you can roll it, sure.
Okay. I guess just with that, reasoning for it is, with that question mark, it seemed like there was more behind that than what they're letting on. Great. It's a 15.
Annika? Do you think that Bucket is kind of holding back more on this?
No, I mean, he's being as transparent as he can be.
So if maybe this person wasn't a direct enemy of Pocket, could they have been somebody who might have seen something after this transformation with the masks or something like that? That, you know, that maybe it's not Pocket that's, you know, killing, but the influence of the masks.
I do think the masks are affecting Pocket, but I do not think it was necessarily these people that Pocket was after. It was this device, and they just so happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time.
So then, if it was the wrong place in the wrong time, why just not take the machine and leave the person? What's the point of Pocket killing them?
Perhaps if they were someone who knew how to operate it, they make it so that they are the only ones that can use it. I am only guessing such things.
Got it. It's not a big area that we're in, right?
So it's a decent size. Like the cordoned off area is like basically a 20-foot radius space. And like if you look down the mezzanine, there are dozens of other workbenches, most of which have people behind them doing things, all the way down to the far end of the workshop structure.
Got it. Rafe is going to walk outside of the roped off area, but he's going to ask Sai to come with him. Sai, come over here real quick. I think I saw something when we were walking in.
Sure, and Sai will follow.
Cool. Right. Are we? I mean, I know it's loud in the area. Are we kind of outside of earshot?
Yeah, you'd be able to find a small point that the two of you could speak kind of in hushed tones if you want.
Got it. There's something that Bucket's not telling us.
I don't know if he's being intentionally deceitful, though. I think there's just a lot more to know.
I'm not convinced that they're not being intentional.
There are things here that don't add up. I can grant you that, but
Like Bucket's recollection on what's going on. They may not know this person, but he knows of them. There has to be a reason why anyone. He's trying to like really keep it low. Control is not entirely encumbersome. Influences. You cannot tell me that this mask is making Pocket just seek out random people without just for no reason. It has to be somebody connected to him. Why would he come here specifically?
I'm not sure. I would like to believe that Bucket is telling us everything that he knows, but I mean,
Fine.
what
Fine.
do you? Well, no, I would like to believe that. I don't know that I actually
don't.
believe that.
I
Well, sure.
don't.
What do you recommend we do?
Has anyone checked the butt?
Don't look at chat. Come on,
what?
don't look at chat.
Yeah, I bet that messed me up. What I suggest is this. Either we convince Bucket to start speaking plainly, or I'm going to find the off switch on Bucket.
Listen, I need to talk to you about the whole
sorry.
off switch situation.
No.
It seems a bit-
You know, and like, most of the time, Rafe is like, oh, he's this oaf who likes to drink, and he's like, blah, 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 blah. I think this is when you actually see the real demeanor of Rafe, or of Wraith, and he's not joking. There is no jovialness about it. This is not a jest. He looks at you, Sai, and goes, "You know what I mean."
I do.
We have a very specific mission with the. I'm sorry for cutting you off, but you need to understand the brevity of what we have here.
I understand, but we can't do this here. This is.
Oh
not,
no, I'm.
Okay.
No, I'm not going to do it here. I just need you to know that is where I am. And if this doesn't turn, I will.
Understood. Understood.
Thank you.
I'll turn to go back. Desperately try to find Maeve's eyes. And
Before you do that,
yeah.
Bucket and Maeve, you guys are there for a few minutes with Wraith and Sai having a conversation. Is there anything that you all would wish to do? Any further investigation or any talk amongst yourselves?
I think Maeve would poke around a little bit, just sort of casually, not specifically looking for anything, but recognizing that it's probably challenging for Bucket to be here, and doesn't want to add like more emotional strain, but will say, it must be hard for you to be back here.
Yes, it is difficult to see a friend fall so far. The Pocket I knew would not have resorted to murder to take out someone he did not like.
So you think it's the influence of the mask?
I would imagine so. There was not such evil in the person I knew.
Do you think the mask can be removed?
I'm hoping it can. I would like to have my pockets back.
I would like that for you as well.
It's around that moment that Sai and Wraith come back, and Sai gets to lock eyes with Maeve for a second.
Sorry, I just died to go to the bathroom again. I apologize.
The look that Sai gives to Maeve is not entirely unfamiliar, I would say. But essentially what it boils down to is a bit of a what the fuck moment. Just, you know.
All right. So, as you guys finish your investigations of the space, you are able to meet with a few other individuals that bore witness to the events. They have slightly varying degrees of description, mostly based on how traumatized they were from the events. Like, one person is very stoic and kind of recounts everything with like a clinical accuracy, whereas another person kind of goes in, like almost breaking down into tears, goes into full descriptions of what it was like to see their friend like twisted and marred on the ground, bleeding out and, gasping their last breaths and stuff like that. And overall, between the four individuals, you don't get any sense of any kind of subterfuge happening or anyone attempting to hide anything per se. And realistically, you just, other than the information that you've already learned, I mean, you're kind of at a loss on what you're supposed to do next. Your mission parameters do kind of kick in. You know that you are supposed to report in to Lady O'Rain, and then that port will get transmitted up the chain, and maybe that'll provide more information. But there is a distinct moment as you're standing in this cacophony of space where you're not sure what all of this means. There's just a lot of confusion to it all, and you kind of take it into yourselves and start heading towards the exit. And as you are heading towards the exit, everyone is still working and hustling and bustling beside. Several minutes before that, before she headed off to do other things, Wuzadith kind of just waved and said goodbye to you. And as you're making your way towards the exit, a voice kind of rings out barely above the cacophony of noise, as you all turn to hear someone saying, "Wocket, is that you? Wocket?" And you turn and look in the direction of this voice, and you see an older man, probably in his 50s, wearing a bit of a trench style vest upon him. Oh, it looks like we lost Beth. Oh no. Well, hopefully she comes back soon. Wearing a bit of a vest, loose sleeves. He's got his sleeves kind of pulled up and tucked and twisted and protected at the cuffs. He has a thick belt, and hanging from his belt are a number of tools and such, and he has this broad smile on his face, and he is rushing over, kind of waving his arms seemingly to get Bucket's attention. Bucket, you turn and you see Ibram, a man that to have been, you've met him a few times, and he was a fairly decent friend of Pocket, as you see him kind of rushing over, calling out your name.
Ibram, dear friend, how are you, sir?
Good, I'm good. What are you doing here?
I am here trying to track down Pocket. Have you seen him?
Oh, no. I haven't seen him in 5 years now, I think. Should I have seen him? I thought he had left Emana.
It seems that he may have been here recently.
And he's kind of mulling things over in his head, and he's like, wait. Not, and he kind of points up at the mezzanine.
And Bucket kind of offers like a can't confirm or deny, but can't deny.
No, that can't have been him. Pocket would never do. Well, no offense, Pocket didn't have that kind of magic.
I do not disagree with you, but I fear that there are magics that make Pocket not who he was.
You mean he was like cursed? Yeah, I get that. My cousin was cursed once, and he got married, and that just doubled the curse. And he just kind of like stares off in the distance for a few seconds. Anyway, Bucket, it's so great to see you again. I'm wondering, oh, pardon, sorry, and he kind of looks at the rest of you, and he says, my name is Ibram, and I'm a friend of Bucket's, and, would you mind terribly, I know you guys were, it seemed like you were about to leave, and, would you mind terribly maybe sticking around for a few moments? I could show you my workbench. It's filled with all kinds of puzzly doodads and things, and I really need Bucket for a second. Is that all right?
Sure.
I guess show us this bench.
I
Yeah.
like a good doodad.
Come on then. And
I
he
love
just kind of
doodads.
like turns around, and you notice that there's a slight hitch in his step, and as you look down you can see that his foot from probably about half of his ankle down is constructed like it's not a normal person foot. It's like an attachment, and he's just kind of hobbling along with it. His pace doesn't seem to be bothered. It just creates a slight hitch in his gait. And he makes his way over to what you believe to be his workbench, wherein you see a wide array of like different devices and things being worked on. There's an alchemical bench set to one side that is like dripping and bubbling, and you know, has some strange odors and such coming from it. And he just kind of like moves throughout the space with relative ease, a comfortableness, a trained expression that he has, having been here for a long time, and he gestures Bucket over to his workbench, and as Bucket comes over, he's like, look at this, I made this one, and I think it's going to be exquisite, but I need someone to test it. And he kind of is like gesturing with his hands towards this object on the workbench, but he isn't picking it up, and you can see what looks to be a forged hand sitting there, about like 3 inches of wrist, and then a normal forged hand, appearing to be made of a combination of various woods and metals and leathers, just strung together in this exquisite piece of craftsmanship. And he just kind of looks down at it and then looks up at Bucket with these like amazed filled eyes, kind of waiting for a response from Bucket to the wondrousness of his creation.
And at this, Bucket just lets out a whistle. Whew, my friend, you have outdone yourself in this manner. I can't believe you have made such a thing. How
Yeah.
long did it take?
8 months, 2 weeks, and 4 days. And 12
And
hours
as
if we're
much.
counting hours.
And it would take others a lifetime, I know.
Yeah, maybe. But I am very much hoping that you can help me test it. Would that be too much of a burden?
What does it do?
It's got some hidden contraptions in it.
Hidden
Sounds like
how?
a doodad.
I mean, I could tell you, but wouldn't it be better if I showed you?
Of course, my friend. And
Okay,
whatever
okay.
you need.
He just kind of, as soon as you say, of course, without even letting you finish, he kind of reaches out and grabs onto your arm, and he kind of pulls your arm forward, and you can see him kind of like moves a glass thing over one eye for a second, and then puts it away, and then grabs a multi-purpose tool from his bench and starts fiddling with some parts on Bucket's wrist, and then he starts to twist one bit, and then he looks up at Bucket and he says, "Okay, I promise this won't hurt. It's going to look a little peculiar, though. All right?" And before you respond, he just kind of keeps twisting, and then there's a pop and a sproing as something like shoots out from Bucket's arm and like deflects off of one of the inventions against the wall and flies away. He's like, "Oh, we won't be needing that anymore." And he does this to the rest of you, what seems to be a sickening twist, as he basically turns Pocket's wrist 180 degrees. And just like separates Pocket's hand from the rest of his arm, and he's holding up Pocket's hand, and Pocket's hand is still like doing this, and he just kind of like sets it down on the workbench and reaches down and picks up very delicately the hand that he was working on, and he reverses basically the process of what he had just done to undo Bucket's hand. And as soon as he locks in the last bit of this new hand and screws down one bolt, you hear this like whir and a click come from Bucket's hand, and for a brief moment you see the blue light of Bucket's chest piece kind of pulse, and there is a distinct radiance to his eyes for a brief moment, and Ibram just kind of stands back with his hands up and this really big smile upon his face, and Bucket is just standing there with the hand, and he's like, yeah, what do you think?
Am I supposed to be feeling something? I feel...
Well, try to move the
feel
fingers,
great.
silly. Try to do something with it first.
Well,
Yeah, and you flex it, and fine, and everything is working absolutely normally. Great. That's awesome. So happy that worked. I was a little worried there for a second. So why don't you think about... Oh, do you remember that time that you, Pocket, and I were talking about forging you a new bit of armor? Do you remember that?
that was many years ago, but yes, of course.
So I want you to think about forging yourself a piece of armor.
Okay. And Bucket imagines the armor that he had when his father first made him, that was taken from him in the battle with Rugen.
And as he imagines that and starts to think about what it would, like what it was, what had to have gone into forging that, the rest of you see, and Bucket doesn't notice this at first, but the rest of you see Bucket's hand like disappear inside of his wrist, and then emerging from his hand is this beautiful blacksmith's forging hammer that just like pops out of his wrist where his hand was. And you all see this like joyous, jubilant glee from Ibram, who's like, yes! And then Bucket kind of opens his eyes and sees the blacksmith's hammer.
Well, that's not a hand anymore.
No, it's not. Now think about the hand again. Think about the hand again.
And so Bucket closes his eyes and imagines the
And
hand.
before
and
he's even finished thinking about it, the blacksmith's hammer disappears and his hand pops right back out.
You've turned me into a hand of many things.
I mean, it's just it's a prototype, so I don't know everything that it can turn into, but I know that it can turn into, I've got it so that it can turn into some weapons and some tools and things like that, so it doesn't do everything, but it does a lot of things. And I'm very glad that you were able to test it out. That's glorious. Now I can, get to work on it proper and make sure that the next version is even better. And he just kind of holds his hands out and says, "May I?" And he's gesturing towards the hand.
Of course.
And as he takes your arm again, he starts to kind of undo everything that he was doing to kind of remove the hand. And as he gets to the point where he's supposed to twist it, cringingly so, he starts to twist the hand, and it's just unmoving. It doesn't budge. And he's just like, uh-oh. Well, that's not supposed to happen.
What is wrong?
It's not coming off.
What do you mean it is not coming off?
I might have made a mistake in the design. You see, I've never actually put this on a construct before.
I
Sorry.
see. Yes. And so, will I ever be free of this arm?
I'll get to work on finding a way to get it undone from you. I promise. You won't, it might take a few weeks for me to do. I'm so sorry. I know it's got to be, it probably won't explode.
Probably is good news, but
Yeah.
I cannot stay here for all that time. My friends here need me.
Oh yeah, no, it's okay. You can, I would suggest maybe, I know for a fact the hand is stable. So if you can keep it in the hand for as much as possible, probably be fine.
Okay. Any other advice?
Take lots of notes so that you can give me the notes when I actually have when I have the capability to remove it.
Alright, and you said weapons and tools?
I mean, that's what I've currently got it set up to do, but I'll be honest, I don't know everything that it can do.
Right, you always keep my life interesting, friend.
I do my best.
Pocket would be proud.
Yeah. I really hope that wasn't him.
It wasn't. It was a shadow of him.
Yeah. And no idea where he's been the past many years? Where have you been the past many years? I assumed you'd be with him.
It's a long story, but the short answer is we've both been fairly busy.
Yeah. Alright. Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, if you do happen to run into him, tell him I said hi, and that I hope he's doing well, and I would love to get a pint with him and talk inventions again whenever he has time.
I think that would do him good. I hope we can do that soon.
Yeah. And I don't know if you know this or not, but his mother makes some of the most delicious cherry tarts that I have ever had in my entire life. So I would wager money to none that if you were to find him, it would probably be at his mother's.
Sorry. I wasn't paying attention the whole time. You said cherry tarts. Where could we get these amazing tarts?
I mean, you could find lots of amazing tarts here in the city, but if you're looking for Pocket's
No.
mum's
Mhm.
amazing tarts, yeah. Well, that's a bit of a long haul, you see. You'd have to go across the sea and through the various towns and over the Ale. Well, you wouldn't have to go over the Aelrus Mountains, I guess. You could go through the Aelrus
Wraith heard
Mountains.
sea and started like.
Wait, I'm sorry. What did I say?
That's not you. You're perfectly fine.
Oh, okay. Anyway, as far as I know, she was hired in Tresca. So, yeah. It's a bit of a long haul for cherry tarts, my friend. Sorry. I mean, I can recommend a pastry shop just down the street if you need.
No, we want the best. Gathering himself.
Right. Anyway, Bucket, you keep notes on that hand and don't explode.
I won't if you won't, friend. And it's like he gives like kind of like good old days.
Do my best. I'll do my best. It was nice meeting all of you. Glad to see that with Pocket not around, Bucket is making new friends. And yeah, I'll be in touch as soon as I can, Bucket. I promise. I won't leave you hanging with your hand. And he just kind of flops your old hand around.
And at that, he kind of flaps his new hand around and says, "I'll give you a hand sometime."
And so the lot of you depart and make your way out of the Cogsworn Collective. As you exit your way out onto the city streets, you realize that you've been in the Cogsworn Collective now for several hours at this point. It is well into the afternoon, and you feel like you have just enough time to make it to the theater in which the Whispering Willow Performing Arts troupe calls home. And so I'm assuming that is where you make your way to in an effort to try to reach Lady O'Rain. As you're finding your way through the city streets and such, you notice a bit of a commotion up ahead. There appears to be several beasts of burden that are kind of like roiling around and kicking up a bunch of dust, and you hear the cries of the animals as well as, yells and calling from the people that are handling them. A cart seems to have turned over, and there's just a lot of pandemonium and chaos up ahead. And as you are looking upon all of it, there is a side street that you can use to kind of avoid it all, and pretty easily done. You kind of take a look down the side street and start making your way down. It's only a few feet beyond to reach the next street over, and as that happens, another voice comes out from behind all of you, seemingly appearing out of nothing. A silhouette of a man steps into the entry of the alleyway that you had just come through, and you hear a voice. "You didn't think I'd find you if you came back." And that's where we're going to call it for tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
Dun, dun, dun.
Our intrepid group of investigators seeking their way through the chaos, seeking a safe way through the chaos of the city of Emana, being waylaid at the very end. We shall find out what happens at the start of our next session. So 1 week from today, make sure you tune in, and we get to see more of these amazing people and their amazing characters. We do have a giveaway that we're going to be handling here in just a little bit, so make sure you do that exclamation point ticket in the chat if you have not already done so, giving away an awesome little GM planner to help you in your analog GMing skills. And before we get to that, we're going to go around the table once again and give everybody an opportunity to tell us a little bit more about themselves and about the things that they are up to on these internets. And we will start with Ian, my oos, my bro. Please give everybody a shout out about all the awesome stuff you got going on, because it's extensive.
It is. Hey, everybody, I'm Ian. I played Wraith. So much fun. I'm happy to be back here at the table with Miko and his amazing storyteller skills. But yeah, you can find me on all the internets at your boy Big, which is YABOIBIG. Mostly on Twitter if you want to know what I'm doing next. Of course, I will be here next week. You can find me on Times Lord Wife channel almost every other Sunday to where we play our Dragon Riders game. We just got our dragons, so we're vibing with that. Also, if you like podcasts and actual plays, you can hear me and a wonderful cast of characters as we play Animon, Digimon themed podcast on all your major podcast streaming platforms under Emergent Code. And then coming up soon, we're going to be rolling back in with Magi RPG for the Cold-Blooded Icewind campaign. And if you're going to Gen Con, I'll be there too. So hit me up on Twitter, holla at your boy, we can chill.
So jealous.
Yeah, wow.
So jealous.
Yeah, it is extensive. I didn't realize that. Okay,
You
I'm
got
done.
a lot, dude. You got a lot. Deb.
Yeah, great. I have loved jumping into a new Ysterra story, so I'm excited to see where this goes. I'm at thwart on Instagram. I will be here on Wednesdays. I'm also here this coming Sunday for a Traveler one-shot, which will be very fun. And then starting next month, I will be over on Lanat Eterna for an arc of that as well. So I'm super excited. Check it
I didn't know
out.
you were going to be in Arc 3. That's
Yeah.
awesome. That is awesome. I get to deal with you and Beth together on that one too.
Excellent.
Speaking
Man,
of
Ian.
dealing with Beth, how you doing there, Beth?
Hey.
Is your internet holding out? Are you going to be able to get through this?
I don't know, man. I hate it. But I don't hate this. This was a lot of fun. I'm Beth. You can find me on the internet when it works at Beth Masco. Tonight and moving forward, I'm playing Sai, the Night Warden, and I'm really enjoying getting to know each of these characters and their interactions so far. It's such a blast. Coming up, I'm going to be here doing this. I'm going to be over playing a game with the Bleak Season at Superior Adventurers Guild. We're doing a Lord of the Rings game. So that'll be fun coming up next Thursday. And then, like Deb mentioned, I'll be doing the next arc of Lanat Eterna. And that should be, I'm hoping it'll be dark and upsetting. That's really what I'm there for. So,
Well,
yeah.
probably. And, at least the next time that you play with Bleak Season, he will, in fact, notably from the get-go, be playing the bid-bag evil guy, because he's running the game. So
Oh, good. Yes.
awesome. Love that. And last but certainly not least, the bright and joyous face that is Annika. Please tell everyone about the awesomeness that you are getting up to these days.
Yeah, so my name is Annika. I am on socials as Anine Wonders, and you can choose your challenge as to which social you want to hang out on. This evening and in future evenings, I will be playing Bucket, who is the Avenging Sentinel, here to stir up some trouble from his past. And in the future, you can find me doing also some Lord of the Rings things, but not the one that Beth is doing. And we'll find out more about that in September on Guild Superior. So I'm excited to
Nice.
see what comes here in
Nice.
Ysterra and in other worlds.
Indeed, we definitely all looking forward to more of that stuff from Bleak Season, because he is rocking it. Love him. Thank you. Big shout out to Christian in the chat for the awesomeness that he did. At some point, I'm going to get him in a Ysterra game that is more than just a one shot, but we'll see when that happens. Thank you much, everyone. I have been Miko, otherwise known as the OKSGM. You can find me on, at least until the inevitable heat death of Twitter that occurs, you can find me on Twitter at, and most other socials at the_OKS_GM, or a handful of them, it's just the OKSGM. Links in the chat if you want to more easily connect with me. And if you want to learn more about this homebrew world that I am cooking up with the help of all of these fine people that you see in front of you, you can check that out, ysterra.theoksgm.com. There's all kinds of cool stuff going up, including a few things that Miss Beth Masco has written and or made, particularly in the form of maps and things. And yeah, really looking forward to things coming up in the future. We are going to do that giveaway in just a few moments, and we are going to raid over to Dork Tales after that. So please stick around when we cut to the break here for the results of the giveaway in the chat. And say hi to Dork Tales when you make your way there. And we hope to see you all again next week. Bye.